Afternoon everybody, it's Prussian Core here. So I've finished off the commander pieces for my 6mm Battle of Assaye British force, which comprised of the Madras Native Infantry from the East India Company and the King's troops, obviously sent over from Britain. So there's sort of 6 commanders in Wellesley's army, including himself, and these are the bases I have done to represent them. Most of the miniatures are irregular miniatures, except for 2, who are Baccus, but I'll point them out as I go along. So I've got a bit of history behind some of the characters involved as well. Unfortunately, Google let me down a bit and I don't have information or huge amounts of information on everybody. So some of these exposés may be a little short, but bear with me and I hope you enjoy. So the first person to look at is this guy. Oh, it's going to focus. Come on. So this is, come on, there we go. This is Lieutenant Colonel J Chalmers, or meant to represent anyway. There you go. He was part of the Naunea detachment, which is a small village that they stopped at on their way to Assaye, and he was actually left there with the 2nd Madras and some infantry to guard the baggage. So he sort of didn't take any part in the battle proper, but he was listed in the army of Wellesley, so I just gave him a figure there for him to command. I've also painted the 2nd Madras, so because, you know, fictionally I suppose he could have made it up at some point. So the person in charge of the 1st Brigade is represented here, I believe. No, he is this one here. Sorry. So this represents Colonel William Wallace, or Lieutenant Colonel William Wallace. Although he was actually a major at the time, he was only brevet lieutenant colonel, so he was made up. The 2 Scotsmen at the back there are Baccus, Jacobites actually, but I thought they'd look okay for Scots in full command regalia. So that's him. So he was a major in the 74th in 1795. He was brevet lieutenant colonel in 1798 and was actually made a full lieutenant colonel in the 80th Foot in 1804, and Assaye took place in 1803. So that's him. He commanded the 1st Brigade at the battle, which consisted of the 74th Highlanders, the 4th Madras Native Infantry, 1 battalion, and 1 battalion of the 12th Madras Native Infantry. So he was commanding of them. And then this is the other Scotsman in charge. This is Lieutenant Colonel William Harness, and sort of an aide there with him. And again, they're both irregular miniatures. He was a major in the 80th in 1793, so obviously the 80th play a big part in the rank system here. He was made brevet lieutenant colonel in 1796 and a full colonel, lieutenant colonel of the 74th in 1798. He served in India till 1801, and in 1800 in 1801, sorry, he served in Egypt. He came back to command the 2nd Brigade at Assaye in India, and then he later died in India in 1804. He commanded the 2nd Brigade, as I said, which was the 78th Foot, the 8th Madras Native Infantry, and the 10th Madras Native Infantry. I think he actually died of a fever or disease in India. So both of those two, Harness and Wallace, were mentioned very highly by both Wellesleys, Richard, the Governor General at the time, and Arthur, who was in charge of the army, as very good soldiers and in dispatches sent back. So the next person to look at, and the final infantry commander, is this guy here, William Orrock. He was in charge of the pickets of the day during the battle, and so the officer, he was the officer in charge, and he's sort of given the dubious distinction with that of maybe misunderstanding the orders slightly and marching far too far towards the actual village of Assaye on the battlefield, which had been garrisoned quite heavily by lots of soldiers, and he undercame fire from that, and then it split the army in two, as I'll go into in another video. But basically, it led to the near destruction of the 74th, and it almost caused disaster through the actions. But it's sort of sometimes said that it was just mistaking the orders, and he was told to go left, so we went left, kind of thing. Now, the person commanding the cavalry at the battle was this guy, Patrick Maxwell, who was also a lieutenant colonel. And he served as a dragoon with the regiment of the 19th Light Dragoons and commanded the cavalry in India. He apparently was quite well liked, quite a valiant officer, and he actually led a charge into, say, the 74th when they were being destroyed, but died in one of the charges during the battle. Apparently, Wellesley's orders were, "Now, Maxwell, you must make the best of your cavalry, and we shall be done." All we shall be done, sorry. So suggesting that obviously it was quite a pivotal charge on the battle, and that they saved that part of the battlefield. Now, there's a record of a Jane Anne Charlotte Maxwell in 1845. That was she in the marriage certificate that she was the daughter of the Colonel Patrick Maxwell of the 7th Dragoon Guards, which is obviously a different regiment, but it suggests that he may well have been the inspiration for a song, a Scottish quickstep called Lieutenant Colonel Maxwell 7th Dragoon Guards Fancy, which is a type of quickstep by a composer called Nathaniel Gow, which is quite an interesting little suggestion there. And there's a painting of him by John Dowman in the uniform of the 19th. So also something there's a bit more record on. And then the last base is the big man himself, Sir Arthur Wellesley. So I put him here at the front, pointing out to somebody. There's a couple of Dragoon Guards at the back here, and this would probably be Major Blackiston, I guess, who was an artillery officer. This chap here in red I am calling Colin Campbell, and we'll talk about him in a second. And this guy here, which I'm not sure if you can see very clearly, has got a pair of white crossbelts. I'm calling him Sharp, as in the eponymous Sharp, because in the book, when Wellesley's aide, his orderly, loses his head to a cannonball, which apparently actually did happen, Sharp took over. And as this sort of journey started with me reading Sharp's Triumph, which is the book that the battle's in, then I thought I would I thought I'd include him. But going back to the chap I was mentioning just now, Colin Campbell, he's quite an interesting character. He's actually the person I've got the most amount of information on. So Colin Campbell was the fifth son in his family, and he apparently from childhood gave evidence of a daring disposition. At 16, he ran away from Perth and he got on a ship into the West Indies. When he arrived in Kingston, Jamaica, his brother, who became an admiral, who was serving on HMS Blonde, brought him back home again. But eventually his parents, yielded to what he wanted to do, and he became a midshipman on an East Indiaman headed towards the East Indies in 1793. He obviously didn't like that very much, because in 1795 he became lieutenant in the 3rd Battalion of Fencibles, Breadalbane Fencibles, and then which was commanded by his uncle, and he saw action in the Irish rebellions of 1798. In 1799 he entered the West India Regiment as an ensign, and in 1800 acted as a brigade major at the island of St Vincent. 1801 he was gazetted lieutenant in the 35th Foot, and immediately exchanged to the 78th Foot, or the Rossshire Buffs, which was then sent to British India. He joined the regiment of Poona, accompanied by Wellesley in the Second Anglo-Maratha War, which Assaye is one of the battles. He greatly distinguished himself by leading the flank companies at the storming of the Petar of Ahmednagar, at which point he was appointed brigade major. Now that's the battle where it was an escalade, and he charged up the ladders and led the troops over the wall. So he served in the Battle of Assaye as a brigade major, and he was severely wounded and had 2 or possibly 3 horses killed under him. I think that battle was particularly strenuous on horses for the British. On leaving India, Wellesley recommended Campbell to his brother Richard, who was in charge of India, and he made him his aide-de-camp. And then Wellesley recommended him to Lord Lake, who in 1803 gave him a company of the 75th Highlanders to command. He returned to England with Richard Wellesley in 1806, at which point Sir Arthur Wellsley immediately asked him to be appointed brigade major to his own brigade, and he accompanied him into Hanover and on the Copenhagen expedition in 1807. In 1808, Wellesley appointed Campbell to his senior aide-de-camp and took command of the expeditionary force for Portugal, and sent him home with dispatches announcing the victory of Rollico. Campbell, however, hearing the guns, disembarked and turned up at the Battle of Vimeiro. Sir Harry Burrard then gave him the Vimeiro dispatch, and Campbell was promoted to a major on the 70th Foot in 1808. On the same day, he was appointed Assistant Adjutant General to a division of reinforcements intended for the Peninsula, and was present at Douro, Talavera, and Busaco, and was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel in 1810. He was present at the battles of Funes de Honor and Salamanca, and he attained the post of Assistant Quartermaster General at the headquarters of the Army of the Peninsula, at Wellington's special request. In 1812, he acted in that capacity at the end of the Peninsular War. He was present at the storming of Badajoz and in 10 general actions. In 1814, Campbell was promoted to Colonel in the Army by brevet, and on the 25th of July of that year, made Captain and Lieutenant Colonel in the Coldstream Guards, the Guards having 2 ranks. He was also appointed Assistant Quartermaster General at Horse Guards. In 1815, he was attached to the staff of the Duke of Wellington and was present at the Battle of Waterloo, which he held the post until 1818. He then exchanged his company in the Guards for the Lieutenant Colonelcy's 65th Foot, which he held until he was promoted to Major General in 1825. Campbell became Lieutenant Governor of Tobago in 1812 and Lieutenant Governor of Portsmouth and General Officer commanding the South West District later that year. In 1833 he was appointed to Lieutenant Governor of Nova Scotia. In 1840 he was promoted to the governorship of Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, where he remained to 1847. It was during his tenure at the office of Sri Lanka that the Duke of Wellington wrote to him, "We are both growing old. God knows if we shall ever meet again. Happen that we may, I shall never forget our first meeting under the walls of Ahmednagar. In 1847, Campbell returned to England, and on the 13th of that year he died, being buried in St James's Church, Piccadilly, where there is a memorial to him. By his death, Campbell was a Knight Commander of the Bath, a Knight Commander of St George of Russia, a Knight of Maximilian Joseph of Bavaria, a Knight Commander of the Portuguese Military Order of the Tower of the Sword, and the Knight of the Military Order of Maria Theresa of Austria. Whew. He held Waterloo Medal and the Peninsular War's Army Gold Medal with class for Talavera, Busaco, Fuentes de Honoro, Badajoz, and 6th class for Salamanca, Vitoria, Pyrenees, Nivelle, Nieve, and Toulouse. Only Wellington, with 9 class, Lord Beresford and Sir Dennis Pack with 7, had more class to their medal. So, as you can see, he went from somebody that ran away at 16 to join the ship to one of the most decorated and recognised men of the period. Certainly with the friendship of some very high up people. So that's it for the command stands for this army. I've just got the limbers to do for the cannons, and then I realised I actually forgot to buy the pickets. So at the minute, Col William Orrock doesn't have a command. But once I've done that, then this army will be complete. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the series so far. Hope you guys have a good one. If you know any more information about any of these chaps, then please do pop it down in the comments. It'd be great to hear anything you heard, or any books or anything for recommendations for them. Otherwise, yeah. See you guys in the next video.